The giant ships appeared over Earth on a Tuesday morning. They were beautiful ships, made of what looked like crystal and silver. The ships were so big that they blocked out the sun over New York, London, and Tokyo. People stopped their cars and looked up at the sky. Children pointed from their windows. News reporters spoke quickly into their cameras. The ships did not attack. Instead, they sent a message to every television, radio, and computer on Earth at the same time. The message was in perfect English, Chinese, Spanish, and dozens of other languages. "People of Earth," the voice said. It was calm and musical. "We are the Zephyrian Collective. We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders." President Chen sat in the White House Situation Room. Around the table were generals, scientists, and advisors. Everyone looked worried except for Chen. She had a small smile on her face that she tried to hide. "Ma'am," said General Martinez, "the aliens want to meet at the United Nations building in New York. They say they have an important offer for humanity." Chen nodded. "Tell them we accept. But I want our best people there, and I want everyone to stay calm." 3 days later, the United Nations building was surrounded by crowds and reporters. Inside the main hall, leaders from every country waited. The air felt electric with excitement and fear. Ambassador Veltar walked into the hall. He was 9 feet tall and very thin. His skin was pale and see-through, like white glass. His eyes were large and silver. He wore robes that seemed to float around him. Behind him walked 2 other Zephyrians who looked similar but smaller. Veltar stopped at the front of the hall. He did not need a microphone. His voice filled the room easily. "Leaders of Earth," he began, "we have traveled far to bring you important news. Your planet is in great danger." The room became very quiet. Some leaders leaned forward in their seats. "The galaxy is not a safe place," Veltar continued. "There are many dangerous species out there. The Kralek swarm eats entire planets. The Void Hunters destroy civilizations for fun. There are others too, all very dangerous." He paused and looked around the room. His silver eyes seemed sad. "Your world is beautiful," he said. "It has clean water, fresh air, and many wonderful life forms. Worlds like yours are very rare. That is why the dangerous species will come for you. They always do." Secretary General Okafor stood up. She was a tall woman from Nigeria who had seen many difficult things in her life. "What do you suggest we do?" she asked. Veltar smiled. It was meant to look kind, but something about it made people uncomfortable. "We offer our protection," he said. "The Zephyrian Collective has protected many worlds. We have a strong fleet and advanced technology. We can put ships around your solar system to keep the dangerous species away." "That sounds good," said President Chen carefully. "What would that cost us?" "Nothing at all," Veltar said quickly. "We ask for nothing in return. However, Earth will not be safe for your people much longer. The dangerous species have ways of getting past any defense. We suggest moving your people to safer worlds. We have many beautiful planets where humans would be happy and safe." General Martinez coughed loudly. It sounded like he was trying not to laugh. Several other military leaders did the same thing. Veltar did not seem to notice. "We have rescued 17 other species this way," he continued. "All of them are now safe and happy on our protected worlds. They have good jobs and peaceful lives. We can do the same for humanity." President Chen stood up slowly. She looked around the room at the other leaders. Many of them had the same small smile she was trying to hide. "This is a very generous offer," Chen said. "We will need time to discuss it with our people. Can you give us some time to think about it?" Veltar looked surprised. "Time? But the danger is very real. The longer you wait, the more likely it is that the dangerous species will find you." "We understand," said Secretary General Okafor. "But this is a big decision for all humanity. We cannot make it quickly. Give us 1 week." Veltar looked unhappy, but he nodded. 1 week, he agreed. But please understand that we are trying to help you. We have seen what happens to planets that refuse our protection. It is not pleasant. After the aliens left, the leaders stayed in the hall. They waited until they were sure the Zephyrians could not hear them. Then President Chen started laughing. It was quiet at first, then louder. Soon, General Martinez was laughing too. Then Secretary General Okafor. Within minutes, half the room was laughing. Did they really think we would fall for that? Asked the Prime Minister of Canada. 17 other species, said the President of Brazil, shaking his head. All safe and happy. Sure they are. General Martinez wiped his eyes. Ma'am, he said to President Chen, should we tell them what we really know? Chen shook her head. Not yet. Let them think we are considering their offer. Meanwhile, we prepare. Prepare? For what? Asked a young advisor who did not understand why everyone was laughing. For when they realize we are not as helpless as they think, Chen said. Her smile was not kind anymore. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that would change everything. That night, in government buildings around the world, secret meetings began. Files were opened that had been hidden for decades. Phone calls were made to people in underground bases and hidden research stations. Dr. Sarah Kim sat in a room deep under the mountains of Colorado. Around her were dozens of computer screens showing star maps, alien ship designs, and communication intercepts. She had been waiting for this day for 20 years. So they finally came, she said to her team, just like we thought they would. What are your orders, Dr. Kim? Asked one of her scientists. Kim smiled. Start phase 1. It is time to wake up our friends. High above Earth, the Zephyrian ships waited. Inside them, Ambassador Veltar was talking to his commanders. They will accept, he said confidently. They always do. Humans are primitive and scared. They will be grateful for our protection. His commanders agreed. They had done this many times before. It always worked the same way. None of them noticed the small objects moving through space around them. The objects looked like space rocks or pieces of old satellites. They were very good at looking like things they were not. On Earth, President Chen stood on the White House lawn and looked up at the stars. General Martinez stood beside her. Think they will figure it out before it is too late? He asked. Chen shrugged. Does it matter? Either way, they are about to learn something very important about humans. What is that? Chen's smile grew wider. That the most dangerous thing in the galaxy is not what hunts you. It is what lets you think you are the hunter. In space stations hidden in asteroid belts and behind moons, lights began turning on. People who had been waiting in the dark for years started their engines and charged their weapons. Ships that had never been seen by alien eyes prepared to show themselves. The week of thinking was about to begin, but the thinking would not be done by humans. Dr. Sarah Kim walked through the long tunnels under Cheyenne Mountain. The tunnels were old, built during the Cold War, but the equipment inside them was brand new. Computer screens glowed in the darkness. Cables ran along the walls like metal, veins. The air hummed with electricity and hidden power. Kim had gray hair now, but her eyes were still sharp. She had been young when humanity first heard voices from space. That was 40 years ago. Back then, everyone thought it was exciting. First contact with aliens. But Kim and her team learned to listen carefully. What they heard changed everything. She stopped at a large room filled with monitors. Her assistant, Dr. James Park, was waiting for her. He looked nervous. Dr. Kim, he said, are we really going to tell them everything? Kim nodded. The president has given us clearance. After 40 years of keeping secrets, it is time to share what we know. Park pulled up files on the main screen. The files had names like Project Silent Watch and Operation Deep Listen. These were programs that most people in the government did not know about. Where should we start? Park asked. Start with the Altarians, Kim said. The screen showed a star map. One star was marked in red. Next to it was text in an alien language, with English translation below. The Altarians were the first, Kim explained to the empty room, practicing for her briefing. 43 years ago, we picked up their distress signals. They were being attacked by someone calling themselves the Zephyrian Collective. She touched the screen, and it showed more files. Pictures of alien ships, intercepted messages, battle reports. The Altarians were peaceful people. They lived on ocean worlds and made beautiful art. The Zephyrians came to them with the same offer they just made to us. Protection from dangerous species. Park changed the display. Now it showed what looked like a timeline. The Altarians said yes. Kim continued. The Zephyrians moved them to a new world. A safe world, they said. We kept listening to their signals. For 6 months, the Altarians sent messages saying they were happy. The timeline moved forward. The messages changed color from green to yellow to red. Then the messages changed. The Altarians were asking for help. They were not free on their new world. They were workers, slaves. They could not leave. When they tried to resist, the Zephyrians used weapons on them. Kim's voice became sad. We heard their last message 18 months after they were rescued. They were sorry they had trusted the Zephyrians. They warned any species listening to run and hide. Park brought up another file. Then came the Hegemony War. The screen showed a battle between 2 alien fleets. One fleet had ships that looked like the Zephyrian vessels over Earth. The other fleet had darker, more aggressive-looking ships. The Vorthak Hegemony controlled 12 star systems, Kim explained. They were not nice people. They conquered other species and used them as soldiers. The Zephyrians came to several worlds that the Vorthak had conquered. They offered to rescue them. Let me guess, Park said. Same story? Same story. But this time the Vorthak fought back. They said the Zephyrians were stealing their worker populations. A war started that lasted 8 years. Kim touched the screen again. Battle reports filled the display. We watched the whole war. Both sides did terrible things. But something interesting happened. The species that the Zephyrians rescued started escaping. They stole ships and ran away. Some joined the Vorthak, even though the Vorthak had been their enemies. Others just disappeared into deep space. Why would they do that? Park asked, even though he knew the answer. Because they learned that being a prisoner with kind guards is still being a prisoner. The Vorthak were cruel masters, but at least they were honest about it. Kim walked to another computer. This one showed a list of species names. 17 names, all marked with red text that said rescued. 17 species, she said. Just like the ambassador told us, all rescued by the kind Zephyrians. All moved to safe worlds. All disappeared from galactic communications within 2 years. Park pulled up audio files. Should we play the intercepts? Kim nodded. The room filled with alien voices. The translation. Software turned the sounds into English text on the screens. This is from 3 years ago, Kim said. 2 Zephyrian commanders talking to each other. The text scrolled past. The new workers from the Kelrani system are adapting well. Their engineering skills are very useful. We should look for similar species. And this is from last year? Kim said. Another conversation appeared. The humans would be excellent workers. They are creative and adaptable. Plus, their world has resources we need. Park turned off the audio. The room became quiet except for the humming of computers. There is more, Kim said. Much more. We know about the Kralek swarm they mentioned. They are not evil monsters. They are refugees. The Zephyrians destroyed their home worlds with biological weapons. The Kraleks became nomads because they have nowhere else to go. She brought up pictures of Kralek ships. They looked scary, like giant insects made of metal, but the intelligence reports told a different story. The Kraleks avoid populated systems. They eat asteroids and dead planets. They have never attacked a living world without being attacked first. The Zephyrians call them dangerous because the Kraleks remember what was done to them. What about the Void Hunters? Park asked. Kim smiled for the first time that day. The Void Hunters are the best part of this story. The screen showed new ships. These were sleek and dark, like they were made from shadows. The Void Hunters are what remains of the first 3 species the Zephyrians rescued. They escaped 20 years ago and have been fighting a guerrilla war ever since. They steal Zephyrian ships. They free captured workers. They warn other species about what the Zephyrians really are. Park looked amazed. So the dangerous species are mostly people fighting back against the Zephyrians or running away from them? Yes. Kim sat down at her main computer. Now comes the interesting part. What the Zephyrians do not know about us. The screen changed to show Earth's solar system. But it did not look like the solar system most people knew. There were extra objects everywhere, space stations, hidden bases, ships that looked like asteroids. 40 years ago, when we first heard about the Zephyrians, some very smart people made a decision. If aliens this dangerous existed, we needed to be ready. We needed to be ready without them knowing we were ready. Park brought up more files. Project Quiet Sky. For 40 years, we have been building in secret. Every space mission that the public knows about had a secret part. Every satellite we launched had a hidden purpose. Every space station had secret sections. The display showed a list of human technology. Quantum communication networks. Stealth technology that bends light and sensor waves. Weapons that use gravity and magnetism. Ships that can move without being detected. We have been watching every species in this part of the galaxy, Kim continued. We have learned their languages. We have studied their technology. We have been preparing. Park looked at the timeline on his screen. So when the Zephyrians scanned Earth, they saw exactly what we wanted them to see. Radio signals from the 20th century, chemical rockets, nuclear weapons that are 40 years out of date, a primitive species that would be grateful for protection. Kim stood up and walked to the main display. It showed a star map with dozens of red dots. 3 months ago, we made contact with the Void Hunters. Last month, we spoke with a Kraleks fleet commander. 2 weeks ago, we sent a message to 5 species that are currently hiding from the Zephyrians. What did we tell them? Kim's smile was not kind. We told them that if they wanted to stop running and start fighting back, Earth was ready to help. The computers around them began beeping. New messages were coming in from across the galaxy. "Ma'am," Park said, reading the incoming signals, "we are getting responses. The Void Hunters want to coordinate their next raid with us. The Kraleks are asking if we need help with ship designs. And..." He paused, looking surprised. "And what?" 3 species we have never contacted before are asking if the rumors are true. They want to know if Earth really has the technology to fight the Zephyrians. Kim nodded. "Send the standard response. Tell them that Earth is always interested in making new friends. But first, we have some old friends to deal with." Above their heads, miles of rock and steel separated them from the surface. On the surface, the Zephyrian ships waited patiently for humanity's answer. The Zephyrians thought they were predators waiting for prey to make a decision. But down in the mountain, Kim and her team knew the truth. The predators had walked into a trap 40 years in the making, and the trap was about to close. Ambassador Veltar stood in the command center of his flagship. The ship was enormous, floating in space above Earth like a crystal mountain. Around him, his officers worked at control stations that glowed with soft blue light. "How long has it been?" Veltar asked his second-in-command, a smaller Zephyrian named Kethara. 6 days, Ambassador," Kethara replied. "The humans have not given us an answer yet." Veltar made a sound of annoyance. 6 days to make a simple decision. These humans are even more primitive than we thought." He walked to the main viewing screen. Earth spun slowly below them, blue and white and beautiful. Veltar had seen many worlds like this one. Most of them were empty now. Their populations moved to Zephyrian work colonies. Perhaps they need motivation, he said. What kind of motivation? Ambassador. Veltar smiled. It was not a kind smile. The kind that shows them how dangerous the galaxy really is. Send a message to the Kralex mercenary group. Tell them we have a job for them. Cathara looked uncomfortable. Ambassador, using mercenaries against a potential client species is against collective policy. Not against them, Veltar said smoothly. We are saving them. The Kralex will attack, we will drive them off, and the humans will be grateful for our protection. It has worked before. In a different part of space, a Kralex fleet commander named Zek received the Zephyrian message. Zek looked like a giant insect made of metal and bone. His kind had once been beautiful, but centuries of war and exile had changed them. Zek read the message carefully. The Zephyrians wanted him to attack Earth. They would pay well. They promised his ships could keep any technology they captured. But Zek had heard rumors. Strange rumors about this planet called Earth. Some of his scouts claimed they had detected unusual signals from the system. Ships that appeared and disappeared. Technology that did not match what the Zephyrians had told them about humans. Prepare the fleet, Zek ordered his officers. But be ready for surprises. On Earth, Dr. Kim sat in her command center. Screens around her showed space in every direction. Hidden sensors tracked every ship within 1,000 light years. Dr. Kim, called one of her technicians. We are picking up Kralex ships, 47 vessels heading this way. They will be here in 6 hours. Kim nodded. She had been expecting this. Send the alert to all stations. Phase 2 is beginning. Around the solar system, things that had looked like space junk for decades began to change. Asteroids that were not really asteroids opened up to reveal weapon systems. Old satellites grew new parts and started moving in new directions. Behind the moon, a space station that was not supposed to exist began powering up weapons that could destroy planets. Admiral Sarah Chen sat in the command center of humanity's most secret base. The base was built inside a large asteroid between Mars and Jupiter. From the outside, it looked like any other rock floating in space. Inside, it held the most advanced technology humanity had ever built. Status report, Admiral Chen ordered. All stealth ships are in position, reported her weapons officer. The Kralex fleet does not know we are here. What about our allies? The Void Hunter fleet is 60 light minutes out, waiting for our signal. The Kralex Resistance Council has sent 3 of their fastest ships to observe, and we have confirmation that 7 other species are watching this battle through our quantum communication network. Admiral Chen smiled. She was President Chen's daughter, and she had inherited her mother's sense of humor. Today, the galaxy learned something new about humans, she said. The Kralex fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Zek looked at his sensors and frowned. The system looked exactly like the Zephyrians had described. One small planet with primitive technology, a few old satellites, some space junk. But something felt wrong. Begin the attack, Zek ordered. Target the planet's major cities. Make it look real, but do not actually destroy anything important. The Zephyrians want the planet intact. The Kralex ships moved toward Earth. They were built for war with armor like insect shells and weapons that could melt through metal. Zek had led attacks like this dozens of times. It should have been simple. Then Earth's defenses woke up. The first sign was the satellites. Hundreds of them suddenly appeared on Kralex sensors. They had been there all along, but now they were not hiding anymore. The satellites began moving in perfect formation, like a school of metal fish. "What are those?" asked Zek's weapons officer. Before anyone could answer, the satellites opened fire. The beams that came from the satellites were like nothing Zek had ever seen. They were not laser weapons or particle cannons. They were something new. The beams reached out and touched Kralek's ships, and wherever they touched, the ships simply stopped working. "Report!" Zek shouted. "Sir, we are losing ships, but they are not being destroyed. They are just turning off. Their engines stop. Their weapons stop. Everything stops." More surprises came. Ships appeared out of nowhere, dropping stealth fields that made them visible for the first time. These ships looked human, but they were clearly not primitive. They moved like dancers in space, fast and graceful. The human ships did not destroy the Kralek's vessels. Instead, they did something much more frightening. They captured them. Magnetic fields reached out from the human ships and grabbed the disabled Kralek's vessels. Tractor beams that should not have existed pulled them in. Within minutes, half of Zek's fleet was floating helplessly in space, surrounded by human ships. "This is impossible," Zek said. The intelligence report said these humans were primitive. His communications officer looked up from her station. "Sir, we are receiving a message from the humans. They are speaking perfect Kralek's battle language." "Put it on screen." A human woman appeared on the main display. She wore a military uniform and had calm, intelligent eyes. When she spoke, her words were in perfect Kralek's. "Commander Zek," she said, "this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We know you were hired by the Zephyrians to attack our world. We are not angry with you. You were lied to, just like many others." Zek stared at the screen. "How do you know my name?" "We know many things, Commander. We know about your real homeworld. We know about the biological weapons the Zephyrians used against your people. We know why you became mercenaries." The human admiral paused. "We also know that you are tired of running. We would like to offer you something better than mercenary work." "What kind of offer?" "An alliance. Help us show the galaxy what the Zephyrians really are, and we will help you get your homeworlds back." Zek looked around his command center. His officers were staring at him. Outside his ship, human vessels surrounded his fleet. But they had not fired a single destructive shot. They had disabled his ships without killing anyone. "How do we know? You are telling the truth?" he asked. Admiral Chen smiled. "Because in 30 seconds, the Zephyrians are going to arrive to save Earth from your attack. Watch what happens next." Right on schedule, the Zephyrian fleet appeared. Their crystal ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Ambassador Veltar's voice echoed across all communication channels. "People of Earth," he announced, "do not fear. We have arrived to protect you from the Kralek's attack." The Zephyrian ships moved toward the battle. Veltar expected to see human cities burning and Kralek's ships destroying everything in sight. Instead, he saw something that made no sense. The Kralek's fleet was floating motionless in space, surrounded by ships that definitely were not human, at least not the kind of human ships he had expected to see. "Keth Ara," Veltar said slowly, "scan those ships. Tell me what you find." His second-in-command worked at her console for several minutes. When she looked up, her face was pale. "Ambassador," she said, "those ships are using technology I do not recognize. Their power sources are more advanced than ours. Their weapons, I cannot even tell what their weapons are supposed to do." Veltar felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Fear. Admiral Chen's voice came over the Zephyrian communication system. "Ambassador Veltar," she said, "this is Admiral Chen of Earth. Thank you for coming to check on us. As you can see, we handled the situation ourselves." "That is impossible," Veltar replied. "Humans do not have the technology to fight the Kraleks." "You are right," Admiral Chen said. "We do not have the technology to fight the Kraleks. We have the technology to stop them without fighting. There is a difference." On his flagship, Commander Zek watched the conversation with growing amazement. These humans had just demonstrated military technology that was decades ahead of anything in the galaxy, and they were using it to have a polite conversation with the species that had been enslaving others for centuries. "Admiral Chen," Zek said, over the communication channel, My fleet accepts your offer of alliance. Veltar heard this and felt his world beginning to collapse. Kralek's commander, he said quickly, remember your contract with us. Jek's laugh was like the sound of metal grinding against metal. The contract was to attack a primitive world. This world is not primitive. Contract is void. Admiral Chen spoke again. Ambassador Veltar, we would like to invite you to a meeting. There are some things about the galaxy that we need to discuss. Veltar looked around his command center. His officers were staring at their sensor readings, trying to understand what they were seeing. The meeting took place on a human space station that Ambassador Veltar had never seen before. The station was enormous, built inside what looked like a large asteroid. When his shuttle docked, Veltar realized the truth. This was not a new station. It had been here for decades, hidden and waiting. Admiral Sarah Chen met him at the airlock. She was smaller than he expected, but her eyes held a confidence that made him nervous. Behind her stood representatives from species he recognized. A Kralek's commander, 3 beings who looked like shadows wearing armor, and others he had never seen before. Ambassador Veltar, Admiral Chen said politely. Welcome to Haven Station. Please, follow me. They walked through corridors that hummed, with power. The technology around them was clearly advanced, but it was also clearly human. Veltar could see the evolution of human design in everything from the lighting to the wall panels. How long has this station been here? He asked. 38 years, Admiral Chen replied. We started building it right after we learned about you. They entered a large conference room. The walls were covered with display screens showing star maps, ship designs, and intercepts of Zephyrian communications. Veltar recognized many of the documents. They were classified collective files. Please, sit down, Admiral Chen said. Veltar took a seat at the conference table. Around him sat beings he had been told were either slaves or enemies. The Kraleks, Commander Jek, nodded at him. The shadow-armored figures pulled back their hoods, revealing faces from 3 different species. All species the Zephyrians had rescued years ago. Let me introduce you to some friends, Admiral Chen said. Commander Jek you already know. These are Captain Nira of the Altarian Liberation Front, General Voss of the Kelrani Resistance, and Ambassador Thex of the Void Hunter Coalition. Veltar stared. That is impossible. The Altarians were wiped out by a plague. The Kelrani died in their sun's collapse, and the Void Hunters are just a myth. Captain Nira leaned forward. She was blue-skinned and had gills on her neck. We are very much alive, Veltar. No thanks to you. I do not understand, Veltar said. Admiral Chen touched a control on the table. The screens around the room lit up with information. Let me help you understand, she said. 40 years ago, humanity detected the first signals from your attack on the Altarian homeworld. We listened to their distress calls. We heard them begging for help. The screens showed intercepted communications. Veltar heard his own voice from decades ago, promising the Altarians safety and protection. We heard you lie to them, Admiral Chen continued. We watched you move them to a prison world. We listened to their messages as they realized what you had done to them. Captain Nira spoke up. We spent 15 years as your slaves, working in your crystal mines, building your ships, dying slowly on a world that poisoned us. But you were rescued, Admiral Chen said. Not by your own people, unfortunately, by us. The screens changed to show human ships. They were smaller and cruder than the current fleet, but they were clearly human design. 18 years ago, we sent our first stealth ships outside the solar system, Admiral Chen explained. Our mission was to gather intelligence, but when we found the Altarian work camps, we could not just watch. The displays showed a rescue operation, human ships attacking Zephyrian facilities, prisoners being evacuated. You freed them? Veltar asked. We freed whoever we could, Admiral Chen said. Over the past 20 years, we have liberated thousands of slaves from your protection. Most of them are now living free on worlds you do not know about. General Voss spoke for the first time. He was tall and covered in gray fur. My people thought we were alone. For 8 years after you rescued us, we believed we were the only Kelrani left alive. Then human ships found our work camps. Ambassador Thex was the strangest-looking being at the table. His skin seemed to absorb light, making him hard to look at directly. The Void Hunters are what happens when your victims organize. We are survivors from a dozen species, all of us rescued by you, all of us freed by humans. Veltar felt sick. This is not possible. The collective's intelligence reports would have detected human ships. Admiral Chen smiled. Your intelligence reports detected exactly what we wanted them to detect. Random radio signals from a primitive planet, chemical rockets, nuclear weapons from the 20th century. She touched another control. The screens now showed Earth's real defenses, stealth ships hidden throughout the solar system, weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, technology that was clearly decades ahead of anything the Zephyrians possessed. While you were building your empire of slaves, Admiral Chen said, we were building an empire of friends. The star map on the main screen changed. Red dots appeared throughout the galaxy. Each dot was labeled with a species name. 43. Species, Admiral Chen said. All of them contacted and allied with Earth. Some are peoples you have never heard of, hiding in the dark corners of space. Others are refugees from your protection. Still others are species that have been fighting you for years. Veltar stared at the map. 43 species? But our intelligence... Your intelligence is terrible, Commander Zhek said bluntly. You only see what you want to see. Species that resist you must be evil. Species that hide from you must be primitive. It never occurred to you that they might be smart. Admiral Chen brought up a new display. This one showed Zephyrian ships and facilities throughout the galaxy. We know where all of your bases are, she said calmly. We know how many ships you have. We know your supply routes, your communication codes, your military strategies. We have been watching you for 40 years. Why? Veltar asked. Why have you done all this? Admiral Chen looked around the table at the representatives of the freed species. Because we learned something important when we first heard the Altarian distress calls. Evil succeeds when good people do nothing. We decided not to be good people, who do nothing. Captain Nera leaned back in her chair. Humans are strange, she said. Most species, when they discover a threat, try to hide from it or fight it. Humans do both at the same time. They hide so well that the threat never knows they exist. Then they fight so effectively that the threat wishes it had never been born. Veltar looked at the evidence surrounding him. 40 years of human activity, thousands of freed slaves, dozens of allied species, technology that surpassed the collective's best science. What do you want from me? He asked. That depends, Admiral Chen said, on what you want for your people. I do not understand. General, Voss spoke up. She is offering you a choice, Veltar. The same choice you have been offering other species for centuries. But she is offering it honestly. Admiral Chen nodded. The Zephyrian collective can continue as it has been. You can keep your slave empire and your lies, but if you do, you will be fighting the entire galaxy. 43 species are tired of hiding from you. They are ready to take their worlds back. She paused, letting him think about that. Or, she continued, you can choose a different path. You can start treating other species as equals instead of resources. You can help us build something better than an empire. What kind of something? Veltar asked. Ambassador Thex answered. A galaxy where no one has to run and hide, where species work together because they choose to, not because they are forced to, where being different is not the same as being dangerous. Admiral Chen brought up one final display. It showed Earth, surrounded by ships from dozens of species, all of them working together. 3 days ago, she said, we sent a message to every collective world. We told them the truth about their government. We told them about the slaves and the lies. We offered them a choice. What kind of choice? Join the new Galactic Cooperation Council or continue to support the old system. But if they choose the old system, they will be choosing to fight against everyone else. Veltar stared at the display. How many worlds have responded? 70% of your outer colonies have already declared independence, Admiral Chen said. Your military commanders are reporting equipment failures across the fleet. Funny thing about equipment failures, they happen a lot when the people maintaining the equipment do not want to fight anymore. Commander Jack laughed his metallic laugh. The collective is dissolving, Veltar. The question is whether you dissolve with it or help build what comes next. Veltar sat in silence for a long time. Around him, representatives of species he had spent his life enslaving waited patiently for his answer. If I agree to this, he said finally, what happens to my people? The Zephyrians who believed they were doing good? Admiral Chen's expression softened. They get the chance to actually do good. Real good. Not the kind that comes with chains attached. And if I refuse? Then you go back to your ship, she said, and you try to hold together an empire that is already falling apart. And eventually, when the last of your people realize the truth, you will be alone. Veltar looked around the table one more time. At beings his people had tortured. At humans who had spent 40 years preparing to fight him. At allies who had been enemies until they learned to trust each other. I want to see the Cooperation Council, he said finally. Admiral Chen smiled. I thought you might. It meets tomorrow, on Earth. 6 months later, the galaxy was a different place. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in the new Galactic Cooperation Council building in Geneva. The building was made of materials from 40 different worlds, designed by architects from a dozen species. Through the large windows, she could see ships from across the galaxy landing and taking off from the expanded spaceport. Today was special. Today they were expecting visitors. Dr. Kim called her assistant James Park. The Nexari delegation has arrived. They are requesting an audience with the council. Kim nodded. The Nexari were a new discovery, a species from the far edge of the galaxy who had just developed faster-than-light travel. According to their initial messages, they had heard rumors about Earth and wanted to make contact. Kim walked through the council building. In the main hall, delegates from 57 species were discussing trade agreements and sharing scientific discoveries. A group of young Altarians was showing human children how to build underwater cities. Kralek's engineers worked alongside Zephyrian scientists to design new ships that could explore distant galaxies. Ambassador Veltar sat at a desk in the cooperation section, reviewing applications from species that wanted to join the council. He looked older now, but also more peaceful. His work these days involved helping former collective worlds transition to freedom. Good morning, Dr. Kim, he said as she passed. The Kelrani terraforming project is ahead of schedule. They should have their home world back to normal within 5 years. That is wonderful news, Kim replied. Any word from the Vorthak negotiations? The former hegemony leaders have agreed to release all their slave species. In exchange, the council will help them find new worlds to settle. It seems even former conquerors can learn to cooperate when given the chance. Kim smiled. The transformation of the Vorthak hegemony had been one of the council's biggest successes. Instead of destroying their enemies, they had offered them a path to redemption. Most had taken it. She continued to the main conference room, where Admiral Sarah Chen was briefing the council's security committee. The committee included representatives from all the major species, including former enemies who now worked together. The Yaal, liberation of the last collective work camp was completed yesterday, Admiral Chen reported. That makes a total of 47,000 freed individuals over the past 6 months. All of them have been offered homes on Council worlds. General Voss, now the Council's security chief, nodded approvingly. My people are grateful for the Council's help in rebuilding our military. We want to make sure that no species ever has to live in slavery again. Commander Zek raised one of his metal arms. The Kralex Restoration Fleet is ready to begin work on the dead worlds. We have learned much about bringing life back to poisoned planets. It will be good to create instead of destroy. Dr. Kim entered the room and took her seat. The Nexari delegation is here, she announced. They want to meet with the full council. Admiral Chen looked thoughtful. What do we know about them? They are from a system about 800 light-years from here, Kim explained. They developed space, travel recently, and have been exploring nearby systems. They claim they heard signals about Earth and the Council. What kind of signals? Asked Captain Nira. Kim smiled. The kind that tell them Earth is a good place to ask for help. An hour later, the full Galactic Cooperation Council gathered in the main assembly hall. Representatives from 57 species took their seats. The hall was designed so that every species could be comfortable, with different gravity fields, atmospheric zones, and lighting systems. President Chen called the meeting to order. She had been elected as the Council's first human representative, though the position rotated between species every 2 years. We have visitors today, she announced. The Nexari delegation has requested an audience. They come from beyond our usual exploration range and want to learn about the Council. The main doors opened, and 3 beings walked in. The Nexari were tall and thin, with silver skin and large black eyes. They moved gracefully like dancers. The lead delegate carried a device that translated their speech into dozens of languages simultaneously. Honored Council, the lead Nexari said. I am diplomatic leader Saval. We come from the Nexari Unity, a peaceful alliance of 12 worlds. We have heard wonderful stories about this council and the species called humans. President Chen stood. Welcome, Leader Saval. We are always happy to meet new friends. What brings you so far from your home? Saval looked around the hall, clearly amazed by the diversity of species working together. 3 months ago, he said, our deep space monitors detected a signal. It was a message from a species called the Void Hunters. The message said that if any species needed help fighting oppression, they should contact Earth. Ambassador Thex, representing the Void Hunters, stood up. That message was sent to warn species about the former collective empire. Did you receive it because you were having trouble with them? No, Saval replied. We received it because we were having trouble with someone else. The hall became quiet. Dr. Kim felt a familiar chill. After 6 months of peace, it seemed the galaxy had new problems. What kind of trouble? Admiral Chen asked. Saval activated a holographic display. It showed a star map of the far galaxy. Several systems were marked in red. A species calling themselves the Dominion of Purity, Saval explained. They believe that only certain types of life deserve to exist. They have been cleansing systems of what they call inferior species. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives from dozens of species began talking at once. They had all dealt with oppression before. President Chen called for order. Leader Saval, how many species has this Dominion attacked? 31 species have been completely destroyed, Saval said quietly. 14 more are fighting for survival. My own people are next on their list. Veltar stood up from his seat. How large is their military? Larger than the old collective, Saval admitted. And they have weapons we do not understand. They can destroy entire planets from across solar systems. The hall fell silent again. Even the species that had fought the collective looked worried. Then Admiral Chen started laughing. It was quiet at first, just a small chuckle, but it grew louder. Soon, other humans in the chamber were smiling too. I am sorry, Admiral Chen said, seeing the confused looks around the hall. It is just... We have heard this story before. Dr. Kim stood up. Leader Seval, when you detected our signal, what did your government decide to do? We held an emergency session, Seval replied. Some wanted to surrender to the Dominion before they attacked us. Others wanted to hide and hoped they would not find us. But our exploration fleet convinced us to try something different. What was that? To ask the humans for help. President Chen smiled. And what makes you think humans can help against an enemy this powerful? Seval looked confused. Because you freed the entire galaxy from the collective in 6 months. Because 57 species trust you enough to work together. Because the stories say that humans keep their promises. Commander Zhek laughed his metallic laugh. The stories are true. Humans do keep their promises. And I think they are about to make you a new one. Admiral Chen walked to the center of the hall. Leader Seval, the Galactic Cooperation Council, has a simple policy. Any species that asks for help against oppression will receive it. We do not ask what you can give us in return. We do not require you to become our subjects. We help because it is the right thing to do. But the Dominion is so powerful, Seval protested. General Voss stood up. So was the collective. So was the Vorthak hegemony. Power means nothing if it is used for evil. Captain Nera nodded. Evil has a weakness. It thinks everyone else is weak too. It never expects the weak to become strong. Dr. Kim activated the hall's main display. It showed the current state of the galaxy. Thousands of ships from dozens of species all working together. 6 months ago, she said, the collective thought they were the strongest force in the galaxy. They were wrong. The Dominion will make the same mistake. President Chen looked directly at Seval. Leader Seval, the Galactic Cooperation Council officially offers the Nexari Unity our protection and alliance. If the Dominion wants to destroy your people, they will have to go through all of us first. The hall erupted in cheers. Representatives from 57 species stood and voiced their agreement. Former enemies now stood together, ready to fight for people they had never met. Seval looked overwhelmed. How can you make such a decision so quickly? Do you not need to discuss it? Vote on it? Veltar smiled. Leader Seval, you asked humans for help. Humans do not discuss whether to help people who are in trouble. They just help. Admiral Chen activated her personal communicator. Fleet Command, this is Admiral Chen. Begin preparations for Operation Distant Thunder. We are going to the far galaxy. Yes, ma'am, came the reply. How many ships do you want prepared? Admiral Chen looked around the hall at the representatives of 57 species, all ready to fight for strangers. All of them, she said. Later that evening, Dr. Kim stood on the observation deck of the council building. Outside, the lights of Earth's cities twinkled like stars. Above them, the lights of hundreds of ships prepared for a journey to the far galaxy.